Hey there, this is Daniel from WP103, and today we're going to check out the second batch of the June featured plugins on WordPress.org. I know, I'm a little bit late, but I think these plugins are still worth checking out, so let's dive into it. This time we change the order a little bit, we go from the best to the worst. And we start with Senzastile featured image fallbacks. This plugin makes sure that you always have a featured image even if there is none defined. And after installation you get a new submenu under the settings called image fallbacks, and here you can define one or more pictures that get randomly selected, or purely random. You can switch them. If you have the stable random, it uses always the same featured image for one post, and if you have a pure random, it changes all the time. This can give some caching issues, but it's all well documented here. In general, everything is very well explained, and you can also enable it for certain post type. If you have WooCommerce installed, it also works for products. Here's a little bit a description how it works exactly. And you can also assign specific featured image for specific categories. So here, for example, the uncategorized get this raspberry image. And at the very end, we have the plugin status. Everything is green. That looks good. Let's check out the front end, and it looks basically like that. We can see the strawberry image. All of these posts, they don't have any featured image set, so you can see it just sets them for all. And to compare how it is without the plugin, that's how it looks like without the plugin. Pretty cool. And that's basically everything this plugin does. Very simple but very effective. It's in version 1.1.1. It is a free plugin and it is available in English. What I like about the plugin is it is simple and it just works. It is very well explained, like all the different settings, and you can set the fallback image by category. What I also like is that it is non-destructive, so as soon as you disable the plugin, everything is back to normal and it doesn't leave any clutter in the database. What I didn't like about the plugin was that it can be a little bit overwhelming when you go into this settings menu at first, because there's so much text and explanation and everything. This could be a little bit better designed, like maybe hide it behind a button or like an eye icon, something like that. But still, I think it's a very good plugin and therefore I give it a 5.0. Next up we have Reviso. That is a client feedback and approval plugin. After activation we have this welcome screen that shows us step by step what we have to do in order to get it to work. Down here we have some ad for the pro version. Under feedback we have all the feedbacks that got collected. Under reviews we have the pages that have some notes on them and we can review them here. Under approvals we have the things that got approved already. There's nothing in there yet. And under settings we have the settings. So let's have a look at them first. We can define in the general settings what the email will be and also where the feedback button should appear. Under comments we have some settings for the comments, like the card control options, the max attachment size, and also the theme that should be used. Notification and integrations gives us some options whether we're gonna get an email when a certain action is taken, for example when a page is marked as approved. We can also bundle these notifications so that you're not getting a notification for every single change, but after 5 minutes then. That's really nice. And there's some pro notifications that we don't have here since we're using the free one. Then another tab for Reviso Pro where you can then install and test the pro version. So let's give it a try. We're now in the block editor and we have this new button here, comments, which opens that Reviso screen, and we can see there is nothing on this page so far. We can either browse the page or we can comment. When opening comment we can select something like Hello World. For example, we can attach some files and then we just add the comment. This will pop up here and we can see on this page we have 1 comment and on everything we have 4 comments. So this works in the block editor, but also in the front end. If we're here, we're getting this Reviso in the admin bar, and if you're not logged in, you get it just here as a floating button. And in order to get some feedback for a page, you have to share a link first. You can do that with this create public link for this page. So sometimes it can happen that this link doesn't work. Then you have to go into the permalink settings here and just save this page once, and then you should get it to work. So here we can then start reviewing. That's now the view as a client that is not logged in, and he has the button here. You have to give your name first. And then you can start adding comments. You can annotate the screenshot and this way exactly show what you mean. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to describe what you actually want to say with just drawing than writing it out in text. We add this comment. There we go. Back in the back end, we have now this feedback here, and we can see here from Jussi on the Hello World page. We can see the status here. This is somehow a little bit confusing. You need to go here and then on open, it opens a new tab, gives you that feedback button, and here you can then actually see the comments or add new comments. That's a little bit weird, but it kind of works. So we can then see exactly where the comment was made, and also we can view the screenshot that we took before. There's a toggle where we can switch from dark mode to light mode. Back in the feedback menu, we can mark this as resolved. And let's also mark this as resolved. On the review page, we have this sample hello page, this hello world page. Under manage, we get this new page here with the link that we can copy. We see the scope, the mode, status, and also when it was last viewed. We have a couple of options, and we can also give a welcome message for the client. We have one item that is in review, and we have a little audit log. Also here we can deactivate it again if we don't need it anymore. So let's deactivate that, go back to all the reviews, and we see this is closed now. If we try to open a already closed review, we get this screen here. And in order to approve a page, we have to go into the front end or into the editor, wherever the comments are. We need to mark this page as approved. I confirm, approve page. Back in the approvals, we can now see that we have this page approved by this user with this email on this date. And that's basically it. Reviso is in version 1.2.2. It is a free plugin. It has a pro version, and it is originally made for the Bricks editor and also Elementor, but it works also very well in the block editor and in the front end. And as always, the question, do you need the pro version? Not necessarily, I would say, but of course it always depends. What I like about the plugin is it seems like there are unlimited comments and pages, so there is no artificial limit for that. And also the pro versions are pretty fair. What I didn't like was sometimes things were a little bit confusing, like when you click on this top bar you get into the settings menu. That's maybe not what you want, and just little things that you have to get used to. Also that you have to approve it basically in the front end view and not in the back end, where you would basically approve things as an admin. Small things like that. But overall, I think it's quite a good solution, and therefore I give it a 4.9. The next one is Admin Optimizer Performance, Security and Site Cleanup. This plugin adds a new menu, Admin Optimizer, and usually it has only one submenu, which is modules. And here you can basically set up the modules you want to activate. And they're quite a lot, as you can see here on the left hand side. We have for performance, security, content and SEO, custom fields and types, users, system tools, migration and import-export. Then we have some ads for the pro version, but let's see what the free version has to offer. There are 3 types of modules. There are the ones which are completely free. These are just looking like that. There's the name and the toggle button. Then there is one that says Pro option. You can activate them, but they have some restrictions that are only for the Pro version. And then you have the yellow ones, which you cannot activate. They're only for the Pro version itself. We have a quick setup menu where you can just activate all the modules or disable all the modules. So let's go through them one by one and see what it actually can do. Under performance, we have some things like the database cleaner, we have the heartbeat control, we can disable emojis, disable jQuery migrate, disable 404 redirects, and remove the O embed links. By activating that, it depends a little bit on the module. Either disable emojis, for example, just disables the emojis, and heartbeat control, for example, adds a new submenu. We can see that here, and this allows us to change the behavior of the heartbeat. Quick note here, I think it's nice that you have this option, but it can be a little bit dangerous when you don't know what you're doing. For example, if you disable the heartbeat completely and you have a site where multiple authors are working on, this can lead to issues with autosave and also post-lock. Well, not issue, it just won't work anymore. So disable that on a website where you're the only author is not a problem, but you can run into issues with multiple authors. So I wish there would be a little bit more explanation what these settings are actually doing and what the consequences of these settings are. Then under security, we have some options that we can block failed logins. We can enable two-factor authentication. We can set a custom login URL, disable the XML RPC. We can hide the WordPress version, remove pingbags, remove powered by HTTP header. We can remove REST API links, remove really simple discovery link. These modules I think are all pretty great and I would use them. Then under content and SEO, we have the SEO manager, which is only Pro. I didn't test that. We can clone posts, we have some content refresh options, XML sitemap generator, redirect manager, auto publishing posts with missed schedule, log posts modification date, SVG image upload, set image file name as alt text. Also here again, kinda nice, but just setting the file name as the alt text is not really doing anything for your SEO. This maybe look good on paper when you run it through a SEO checker, but the alt text should actually be helpful and describe actually what the picture is about. So not ideal. Then we have robots.txt and ads.txt manager. Image upload size, convert underscores into hyphens, auto add HTML anchor to heading blocks, disable category and archive pages, disable tag archive pages, disable author archive pages, and disable date archive pages. Not all of them are super useful, and some you wanna maybe activate with a little bit of caution, but otherwise I think it's a nice selection. Then under custom fields and types, if we activate these modules, we get a custom fields and types menu here where we can manage and add our custom post types. I added this admin O test and it just works as any other custom post type. Then under user, we can block admin access, we can hide update notices to all the users except for the administrators. We can hide admin toolbar for all users. We can track users' last login date, display user registration date, disable new user sign-up notification, and disable user account. Most of these options add then a new submenu. For example, here the block admin access, where we can then say, okay, I would like the editor should not, or like the customer and shop manager, they should not be allowed to access the admin page. Under system tools, we have then email and SMTP. We can disable the Gutenberg editor, the page ordering, form builder, and custom code that we can add, and also auto open advanced fields in the Gutenberg on mouse over. That's a mouthful. Migration asks us to install another plugin. We're not going to do that, so we're going to skip that one. And in import export, we can import and export certain settings. And that's pretty much it. The plugin has really a lot to offer, and all the functions I tested worked great. So nothing to complain there. The tested version was 2.4.0. It is a free/paid plugin. I tested the free version, and I think you don't really need the pro, but it has some useful features. What I like about the plugin is that you have the custom post types and taxonomies that you can set up very easily. It has many useful features, and you can activate and deactivate what you actually need. Also, there are many hooks for developers, so that's really great. What I didn't like was that there is no warning what certain options will cause, for example, the heartbeat that you can deactivate or things like that. I wish there would be a little bit more explanation what a certain option does and can lead to. Also, the name is a little bit misleading because it's not just for the admin area or for the admin. It has also a lot of things for the front end and SEO and stuff like that. But yeah, not really a problem. And on my installation, it didn't work right out of the box. When I created the custom post types, I needed to resave the permalink options, and then it was working fine. So I think there should be like a warning or something like that that shows, hey, you have to save the permalinks, or it saves it for you. So it is updated and it works. Next on our list is KineticHub animated Gutenberg blocks. This plugin adds a new menu here in the main menu, and it mainly is here to set the settings. So the question is, why is it not in the settings menu? Anyhow, we have a little overview of the included blocks and the activated blocks. Also, we get some add for the pro version, and under my suite we can activate and deactivate the certain blocks we want to use. We just activated all of them. Under global settings, we have some global settings like accent color and also what kind of motion engine we want to use. I couldn't really see any difference. Switching this from balance to echo to performance, maybe it would be nice to have some explanation what it actually does. We can change also how smooth the animation should feel. Of course, let's go all the way down, and we can say if it should be on the mobile as well and if the assets should be optimized. Under system info, we have a small system information about the version and if the REST API is activated and stuff like that. In the editor, we have then all the blocks that we activated before. So if you don't need a certain block, you can just deactivate it and then it will also won't be available. And I added all the blocks already here. By adding them, you get a few options per block. And these depend a little bit on the kind of block, of course, like this before and after image comparison. You can set the images that you need to set. Under engine and transition, we have then certain options like the start position and things like that. We can define the handle color, mobile settings, which are also only for the pro. We can change labels and stylings, and as I said, these are individual for all the blocks. Some of them have options in common, for example the kinetic physics, which is only available in the pro version. Then the smart add-ons and also visibility is usually in every block. And in general, you have a ton of options to customize these blocks then. But the main thing is the animation, so let's check out the front end, and you can see all of these have some kind, either an interactive element or a hover element, like this box that moves around a little bit. The pictures that appear when you go over a certain heading, for example. We have this animated hero section, the button the magnetic button here. Everything is very animated, very dynamic. And it has some cool blocks, like also this one here, this scroll to explore block, where you have then the picture always on the left side and then it scrolls text on the right side. And there is a modal for the video. And that's pretty much it. The tested version was 1.0.11. We tested the free version. There is a pro version. It doesn't require any other plugins, and you probably want to have the pro version to get really everything out of this plugin. A lot of settings are locked behind the pro version, so if you really want to get everything out of it, then you probably want to have the pro version. What I liked was that it has the performance options. I couldn't really figure out how they work exactly, but I guess they work somehow. Then the blocks can be disabled and enabled. It has many options per block, and also it has a lot of unique and creative blocks and nice animations to top it off. What I didn't like was that it has a top level menu. Put that under settings. It's a settings menu. And also it was not very clear what kind of features you're missing with the physics engine, for example, and all the other features which are only for the Pro version. But all in all, I think it's a really great plugin if you want to have a little bit more animations and more like a dynamic side. So therefore I give it a 4.8. Next is rtCarousel. It's a flexible carousel slider block for images, videos, testimonials, and more. This adds a new block under rtCarousel named Carousel, and with that you can just add one of these carousels that has then multiple pages, and in the list view we can see it has like this viewport here. Then we have the controls, and that we can of course remove that if we don't want to have them, and in the viewport add slide, or we can select them here. And this slide has now a image here, so we can also add any other block here. We can, let's delete that and add a heading, for example, and then the last slide is then just this heading. So when you add a new carousel, you can say how many slides you want to have. Let's go with 3. And also we have some templates. We can say it's a text slide, image, an image heading plus text plus call to action, image plus caption, or query loop slide. So that's pretty cool. You can have dynamically created slides from your posts. If we set it then up with the query loop, it shows the first post only, and then it seems not to work with the rest of the post. So I really like the idea, but something doesn't work or is not as intuitive as it could be. Also, you have some carousel settings here. You can either loop it, you can change the alignment, you can change scroll and snapping options, auto scroll, slides to scroll, etc, etc. There are quite a lot of options, and also it has an autoplay option. In the front end it looks like that. Then you can either drag and drop it, or you can use the buttons to go back and forward. Also, you can put forms in here or whatever you need. So basically every block that is available. The tested version was 2.0.3. It's a free plugin. There is no pro version and is available in English. What I liked was it was very easy to use. It has 5 slide templates that you can select at the beginning. It is very well integrated with the full site editor, so I liked that, and it is very lightweight. I disliked that there were no styling options for the controls, so these back and forward buttons that you have, you just get them the way they are and you cannot really change them. Also, there are no controls for the speed or what kind of animation should be used. Maybe it's not necessary, but that's just something I noticed. But overall, it's pretty solid, and therefore I give it a 4.5. Next up is BlockFlow, full site editor, blocks, site builder, and starter templates. That's another big one. Also, this plugin adds another menu here where you can disable or enable certain blocks. And as you can see, the list is quite long of blocks that you have at your disposal. We have some settings. We can set up the default editor width, for example. We have a few dark mode options, performance options to minify CSS output. Then under style, we can enable SVG upload, and also have some CSS specific boosts, which just adds a body element before all the CSS selectors. This can help you if your theme overrides your styles of the block, so you can activate that. Typography settings, where you can already change sizes and style of your typography. We have system infos that shows us if everything is in check. Some other plugins from the same developer, and also a help and support menu. So let's check out all the blocks that are available. We can see them here when we try to add a block. There are quite a lot, and I added them all already here. So there are some blocks which are unnecessary, or seemingly unnecessary. For example, this block here that adds a button. You can also do that with a native block. The difference is you have way more options here on the left hand side. If we check that out, we can, for example, say the hover state and also border hover state, which doesn't work with the default button yet. I think there's something coming. You have more options also when it comes to set index or order, self-alignment and stuff like that, sizing, and it is all very Elementor-like. So these input fields look exactly like Elementor, like how the padding here works. Also that you have options for mobile, desktop and tablet view. It also has the same things I don't like about Elementor, for example. So this one, the native padding that you can set with the sliders, I think it's way more comfortable than having to punch in the numbers here and change from pixel to percent or whatever. It's also way easier to remember, like, okay, I set a padding of XL on everything, then you have to remember a certain number. So yeah, then we have some different headings. These are pretty similar to the standard blocks that you have already in WordPress, but they add a few more styling options and stuff like that. There's some blocks like the team member, I think, are pretty cool, where you can set then the picture and it formats everything for you already. So and you can change the style to avatar, for example, horizontal or overlay, if you want that. It has also an embed function, and for some reason in the backend you cannot see the video, or it just shows this error here. It works in the front end though, so some logo slider or another gallery slider with some animations here. So it has quite a lot of interesting blocks, but it has also a lot of blocks which basically are the default blocks with a little bit of styling. Also, you have a Google Maps embed and things like a progress bar. So let's check out the front end now. And some of those have a little bit of animations to them, but it's all very grounded. I think the strength is that you have a lot of styling options in the editor. And as you can see here, the video works. Some blocks also have animations like these counter blocks here or this progress bar. That's basically it. The plugin is in version 1.1.0. It is a free plugin, it has no pro version, and it is available in English. What I liked was that it has many blocks and a lot of styling options. It feels very polished and it is very Elementor-like. What I didn't like was that it was very Elementor-like. It has also these quirks from Elementor that I don't like. The icon selection, where you can load more icons, didn't work in my test. And it has a little bit small bugs here and there, like this YouTube preview that didn't work correctly. Or also the alignment in group, which is a little bit confusing because it has the alignment from the block editor itself and also the alignment inside the settings panel, so you have basically the same setting twice. What I didn't like, or maybe it's a plus, I'm a little bit on the fence, but it loads a style sheet and script file for each block that you add. So you end up with having a lot of files that are getting loaded, but they're all quite small, so yeah. Also it overrides some function with like the alignment that I said before already. So therefore it's a solid plugin. I give it a 4.0. Next is Asteris Blocks. That's 50 free Gutenberg blocks, full featured and free forever. And as always, we start with the settings first, which are under settings. Very nice. And here we can set up the newsletter integration. If you're using the newsletter block, you can change the announcement bar. If you add the announcement block onto a certain page, then it's only showing on this page, and if you want to have it side-wide, you can activate it here, and then this announcement bar gets displayed side-wide. Same thing with the cookie consent bar. That's probably something you want to have side-wide as well, so it's probably better to add it here than as a block. And that's it. We have quite a lot of blocks. Some of them are quite unique, like a QR code, for example, or a star rating, table of content, But we have also some blocks which we have already with the standard blocks, like the video embed, but it adds some other features, so let's check them out. I added all the blocks here, and first thing I noticed that the view of the backend is very different sometimes than the front-end view. For example, this button looks basically the same, but this whole section here, if we compare it with the front end, looks quite different. So you really have to test it and see how it looks like and if it is to your liking. So some blocks I liked, which I think are working also very well, is this before and after slider. The code block that styles your code that you're writing. You can also change the language here, for example, to Python or to CSS, and then this will look different in the front end. Some things don't really seem to work very well. For example, here in this comparison table, you can choose the colors that you would like for your color and their color. But if we check it in the front end, it's just both green. So it also has this cookie acceptance block here, which only works basically if the other plugins are respecting this option and only show the tracking and only include the tracking, for example, when the cookies are accepted. So you have very little control actually what happens when this accept or decline buttons are being clicked. So if compliance is very important for you, then you might want to have a little bit more control here. Then you have things like coupon code, you have a call to action button, which basically just adds a button with an icon, and here instead of a icon picker or something, you just have a text field where you can add an emoji, for example. Well, it works, but it's not very user friendly. And then we have a Spotify player, which is pretty cool. I also like the hotspot block, where you can like add certain hotspots to your image. Same with the other blocks, it kind of works. It's just like you have to position that like with these sliders, which works, but like a drag and drop would be way more intuitive. Just small things like that. Also nice is this pricing table and the pricing toggle for that, which you can see here. That's the toggle, and this is the pricing table, and it looks like that in the front end. Here you have a bunch of styles to choose from. That's really nice. Also nice thing is the QR code that just works like that, and you can also change the foreground and background color for that. Let's go with this, and then you get your colored QR code. And then you have like the social media icons and the social media share buttons, something that you have basically with all of these collection of blocks. Star rating is another one that is quite nice. Also the table of content is something that is quite unique. So Asteris Blocks is available in version 1.0.0. It's a free plugin, forever free. It is available in English, and if 50 blocks is not enough for you, there is also a pro version that adds a few more. What I liked about it was that it has many blocks, like 15 total, so that's quite a lot. It has not a lot of scripts and styles that are getting requested. A lot of that is bundled in one, and also it puts the settings menu where the settings menu belongs, so that's very nice. What I didn't like was that the control for the cookie consent bar is a little bit unclear what actually gets then allowed and what not. Also, it has some duplicate blocks like the accordion and FAQ blocks, which are very, very similar. And also many blocks you can just recreate with the default blocks. And also there are not many options to customize the looks for some blocks. And also the backend looks very different from the front end. I think it offers a lot in terms of numbers and blocks, but also a lot you may or may not use. So therefore I give it a rating of 3.9. Next we have Sobi Forms that well, adds forms. This gives us a new menu here, Sobi Forms, and it has submissions, forms, settings, and resources as submenus. So let's check out the resources first. And here we basically get some instructions how to create forms and how it works with the Gutenberg blocks and how to pre-fill forms via the URL. That's a pretty cool feature, by the way. And it gives you some details about the file uploads. And we have a feedback tab here. Under settings, we can find settings regarding spam protection. You can activate a Aximet or a Cloudflare turnstile. There is no Google CAPTCHA. Well, Cloudflare is free as well, so guess that works. In the FAQ tab, you get a lot of explanation what exactly these settings are doing, so that's pretty nice. You have a SMTP setting for your email delivery, and you can also see the forms which have webhooks. On the forms, we have the created forms. We have one form at the moment, so let's have a look. And it opens this editor here where we can see our form. On the right hand side, we have some settings regarding availability. I think it's pretty cool that you can pause a form or also set a close date or a submission limit. So you can say, okay, after 100 submissions, it will close it. So that's really nice. We can define what should happen after submit, can show a message, save it to the inbox. And also we can auto delete all submissions, like which are older than 90 days, for example, or 100 days or whatever you set up. And you can set the email. We can add another action like a trigger a webhook or send a user confirmation. Somehow nothing gets rendered here. Okay, that's interesting. We can add a hidden field and also customize the error message. On the left side, we can then either configure the fields that we already have, for example, this name field. We can set it as required, we can show or not show the label, we can define min and max characters. That's quite nice. And also we can change the URL parameter. Also, a thing that I like was you can turn it into another field, for example, a phone number field, and this will then become a phone number field. We can rearrange them with this little handle. And also we can add one below, or we can add a new field here with add field. The available fields are basically everything you need really for a form. We have a shortened long text, email, link, phone number, date dropdown, multiple choice checkbox, and file upload. Last but not least, we have the send it button, and that's it. So let's have a look at our form in action. We do not really have any styling options, so we just get the form that looks like the form here. So we cannot really define the colors or the border, for example, or the size of the label and stuff like that. So you just have to style that with CSS then. So let's fill that in and send it out, and we get this success message. And by the way, if you configured something wrong, then you get also a message that says what is wrong. This is not ideal. That's also something that gets printed out to the user then. So yeah, we get a little notification here that we have one new submission. Let's click on it, and then we can see basically nothing. For some reason the fields are not showing up here, which is a little bit a pity, yeah. We have the option to add a admin note. See, I did that already with another one. And so we can add an admin note. This will then just pop up here. So this gets rendered, but the rest of the message doesn't. And we get this email that I thought will not work because there were somehow no options, but we got this thank you email. And here's all the data we punched in before. So it kind of works, but also it doesn't show the data here, which is weird, but okay. The tested version was 1.6.0. It's a free plugin available in English, and it doesn't have any pro version. What I liked was that it is quite well designed, but why is it not made in the block editor? You would have more options, like you can have multi-column layout and things like that, or style things. I think there is a lot of potential that was given away by using a custom form like that. It has many options when it comes to accessibility and also to storage, notification, stuff like that. I liked the turn into field option and also the form availability options, and it has some spam protection, so that was quite good. What I didn't like was like the block editor issue that I said before. So therefore you can also not make like a 2-column layout. The inbox doesn't show any data. That seems to be a bug, although it had some problems in the past version when I tested it for the first time. It also didn't send the messages at all, so there is a lot of work, it seems. And also there is no way to customize the emails that get sent to the user or to the admin then. And as mentioned before, the error message that the user also get when something is wrongly configured is not ideal, I think. So it kind of works, but I think there is also a lot that needs work. So therefore I give it a rating of 3.5. And that concludes this plugin review. Is there a plugin you're gonna install? Let me know in the comments below, and I catch you in the next one. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and to like and to share and do all that stuff. So thanks.